I bought the apartment she lived in, the same place my husband paid for, and still, somehow, I was the one who lost peace. That's the sentence that echoes in my mind when I think about everything now, not the betrayal, not the shouting, not even the signatures on those divorce papers. No, it's that line, because there's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just sits, quiet, steady, intentional, like a slow tide ready to drown everything in its path, and mine began the night I found the receipt. It was buried under grocery store coupons and a crumpled napkin in my husband's coat pocket. I remember the smell, cologne mixed with winter air and something metallic from the keyring. I wasn't searching for anything. Back then, I still trusted him. Or maybe, I trusted the version of him I wanted him to be. The paper wasn't long, just a printed transaction with a bold number circled in blue ink, $2,800 monthly rent payment. At first, my brain didn't even process it as betrayal. I thought, did we buy a rental property? Did he invest in something? My fingers shook a little, but not from suspicion, from confusion. I waited until he came home, 10:27 p.m. Later than usual, though he used to come home late often enough that I had stopped questioning it. He walked in humming, smelling faintly of wine, hair just slightly out of place. Not messy, just touched, adjusted. Someone's fingers had probably been there, but I didn't know that yet. He smiled when he saw me. Still awake, you should be in bed. I held the receipt between my fingers. His smile didn't drop, it didn't flicker, it just froze, like a photograph someone forgot to finish editing. What's this? He blinked slowly. Then he laughed, a practiced, dismissive laugh. Oh, it's nothing, business expense. Whose business? Our business, he said, too quickly. A beat of silence settled between us. One of those heavy silences, like the moment before a mirror falls and shatters. Why is our business paying someone's monthly rent? I asked. His jaw tightened. Not enough to be obvious, but enough that I noticed. I always noticed the little things. Maybe that was the problem. His response came clipped. It's not what you think. Except I wasn't thinking anything yet, not fully. But now I finally had a direction. Before I go further, I should tell you a little about us, about before everything fell apart. My name is Lee. I'm 42 years old. I grew up believing relationships are built the same way good houses are, slowly, with planning, patience, and small repairs along the way. My husband's name is Marcus. When I met him, he was charming the way rain is charming before you realize the roof leaks. He had warmth, confidence, ambition, everything that feels safe until it doesn't. We didn't have children. Not because we didn't try, but because life sometimes decides differently. There were miscarriages, procedures, nights I fell asleep with swollen eyes and clenched teeth. Marcus held me through some of those nights. Other times, he disappeared into work, and I told myself that was grief too, that was his version of mourning. People who have never experienced longing, the kind that sinks into bone, will never understand the quiet ways it reshapes a marriage. Some couples grow closer. Others find space between their hands, between their routines, between their hearts. Marcus and I chose silence instead of conversations we needed to have. And silence, I would later learn, is the most dangerous companion a marriage can have. 3 days after I found that receipt, I followed him. Not dramatically, not like in movies with sunglasses and a parked car running across the street. It was simpler, smaller. I told him I had a doctor's appointment that morning. Then I waited 10 minutes after he left, and then I drove. His office was downtown, but he didn't go there. Instead, he turned onto a quieter street lined with tall brick buildings, older ones with ornate balconies and wrought iron fencing. I parked far enough behind him to stay unnoticed. My heart beat so loud I could feel it in my throat. He walked up to one of the buildings. Apartment number 302. A woman opened the door. She wasn't overly glamorous, not the type people expect when they hear the word mistress. She looked ordinary, late 20s or early 30s, long curls, soft features, wearing a thin robe like she wasn't expecting anyone else to see her. She smiled at him, a soft, familiar smile, and he kissed her. Not a guilty kiss, not quick, not hesitant. No, this was a practiced kiss, a homecoming kiss. My chest tightened. Not because I was surprised, but because the moment I saw it, every puzzle piece I had ignored suddenly rearranged itself into a picture I could no longer unsee. He disappeared inside with her, and I stayed in the car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went numb. I don't remember how long I sat there, long enough for the sun to shift positions, long enough for anger to replace shock. By the time I drove home, I wasn't the same woman. Something steadier had taken root. Not rage. Not despair. Determination. That night when Marcus walked through the door like nothing had changed, I didn't confront him. Instead, I set dinner, roast chicken, garlic potatoes, and the salad he always said he loved but never really finished. He talked about his day. I nodded. My mind replayed that woman's face again and again. When he finally excused himself to go shower, I whispered to myself, if he wants to build a life with her, I will make sure I own the ground they build it on. And that was the first time I realized, betrayal doesn't always end a marriage. Sometimes it begins a battle. After that stunt at the registry office, things between me, my husband, and his mother weren't just tense, they were a battlefield. She didn't apologize. Not once. Instead, she kept acting like I was the crazy one for not naming my child after some dead man I'd never even met. But the worst part? My husband kept defending her. She's just emotional, he kept saying. You know how she gets. She really thought it would honor family tradition. Honor? She tried to rewrite my child's legal identity while I was unconscious. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. And then one night, about a week after the name fiasco, his mother showed up again. Not to apologize, not to see the baby. No, she came with papers. The documents. She marched into our apartment like she owned the place, brushed past me, and slapped a folder onto the table with theatrical confidence. Since you've been difficult, I've prepared something fair. Fair. That word made my stomach twist. I opened the folder, my hands shaking, expecting something ridiculous but harmless. Instead, what I saw made my heart stop. It was a guardianship petition. She wanted shared legal parental rights, not temporary medical access, not emergency authorization. Permanent, equal custody. Meaning, she could take him to appointments without me. She could override decisions she didn't like. She could legally decide where he lived, and tucked inside, behind the official forms, was a list. A neatly typed, bullet point list titled, Changes I will implement once approved, some examples. Switch pediatrician to family doctor we trust, move baby into crib at my home for sleep stabilization, reintroduce the name Charles as primary name, begin Catholic christening preparations. My baby wasn't even 3 weeks old. I stared at that list like it was written in another language. My brain refused to accept it. Then she said it. The sentence that made everything inside me snap. You're young, first-time mothers make emotional, irrational decisions. I'll make sure he's raised correctly. The fight. My husband just stood there, silent, not defending me, not defending our child, just frozen. I looked at him with tears forming and said, please tell me you had nothing to do with this. He didn't answer. His mother did. Oh, he knows. I told him last night. He was unsure at first, but once I explained that you were interfering with tradition, he understood. That was it. Anger washed over fear. Cold, focused. I handed her the papers back and said, get out and don't come back without an invitation. She laughed like I'd told a joke. Sweetheart, once court approves this, I won't need permission. And then she walked out. But before she reached the door, I said, take one more step without answering this. Did you sign anything? Did you agree to her petition? My husband finally spoke. I didn't sign, I just said she could draft it. It felt like betrayal dressed as hesitation. As soon as she left, the argument erupted. I asked him, do you even want to be a father, or do you just want to give your mother a replacement baby for the one she couldn't control? He snapped back. You're blowing everything out of proportion. She's just trying to help. Help, help. She tried to legally steal decision-making rights to my newborn child. The boundary. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Instead, I calmly picked up our baby, walked into the bedroom, locked the door, and texted my husband. Until you choose your family, the one you made, I am not discussing this further. His reply, we'll talk when you calm down. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. The lawyer. The next morning, while he was at work, I found a family lawyer. Once I explained the situation, she didn't even blink. Her exact words, good news, she has no legal standing. Bad news, she's delusional enough to try. She filed a cease and desist letter documentation stating I oppose guardianship, a custody contingency plan in case things escalated. She also advised me to save every text, never leave the baby alone with them, change medical access codes, notify the hospital because, apparently, this happens more than people think. Before I left, she asked, is your husband going to stand with you or against you? I didn't know, and that terrified me. The breaking point. When my husband came home, I told him I'd spoken to a lawyer. He exploded, not scared, not confused, angry, like I was the one threatening the family. He said things like, you're creating drama. My mother deserves a relationship. You're acting paranoid. Then he said the sentence that made everything inside me turn to ice. If you keep treating her like this, I'll take the baby to her house myself. That wasn't a threat. That was a declaration of sides, so I said, "Then you just made my decision easier." He laughed like I wouldn't dare and said, "And what decision is that?" I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I want a separation." Silence, then disbelief, then rage, but I didn't waver. And that is where things stand now. My lawyer is preparing emergency custody paperwork. My husband is staying with his mother until I stop being unreasonable. And me, I'm holding my baby, feeding him, loving him, and making sure no one, not a mother-in-law, not a manipulative husband, not a family tradition, ever takes away my right to protect him. Because the moment they tried to change his name, they forgot one important thing. I may be exhausted. I may be scared. I may be postpartum and emotional. But I am also his mother, and I will fight. 3 weeks later, I walked into family court with shaking hands, a folder full of documentation, and my lawyer beside me. My mother-in-law sat on the opposite bench, dressed like she was auditioning for a royal portrait, pearls, gloves, the whole respectable matriarch costume. My husband sat beside her, not with me. Not once during the wait did he look at me, not even at his own child sleeping in his carrier. Coward. When the judge finally entered, everyone stood. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. This wasn't just a legal proceeding. This felt like a custody battle for my life. Her opening argument, her lawyer went first. He stood tall, confident, rehearsed. "Your Honor, we are here because the mother has demonstrated instability, irrational emotional behavior, and a refusal to allow established family support systems access to the newborn." Instability. Emotional. The typical arsenal used against mothers. Then came the lies. He claimed I denied medical care. He claimed postpartum depression made me unfit. He claimed I threatened to keep the baby away out of spite. And finally, we request joint guardianship to ensure the child's proper upbringing. I didn't cry. I didn't interrupt. I just looked at her, this woman who believed she owned my child, and thought, "You really don't know who you're dealing with." My turn, my lawyer stood. Calm, controlled, prepared. She didn't argue emotionally. She presented evidence. Screenshots of texts, the name change, attempt, the list of planned baby modifications, witness statements from nurses, a therapist report confirming I was mentally sound and bonded with my child when she placed the hospital name change attempt form on the judge's bench. My mother-in-law's face finally faltered. The judge raised an eyebrow. "You attempted to change the baby's legal name while the mother was under anesthesia." Mother-in-law lifted her chin proudly. "Of course, I was correcting her mistake." The judge blinked slowly, twice. That expression said everything. And then the bombshell. My lawyer pulled out one last document, a video. I didn't know she had it. She clicked play and the courtroom speakers filled with the recorded voice of my mother-in-law. There she was, in my living room, laughing. "Once the paperwork is approved, she won't be able to stop me. I'll get full control eventually, and that baby will be raised my way." Then my husband's voice, "Just do whatever you need to do. I'm tired of arguing with her." I looked at him, his face drained of color. For the first time that day, he looked afraid. The judges ruling the room went silent. The judge leaned forward and spoke slowly, clearly, like reading a verdict etched in stone. "This petition is denied." My eyes filled with tears, but she wasn't done. "Furthermore, due to documented attempts at unauthorized legal action, manipulation, and coercion, I am issuing a protective order. The petitioner is to have no access to the child for 1 year, pending reevaluation. No access, not supervised, not temporary. None." My mother-in-law gasped like someone had stabbed her. She whispered, "You can't do this." The judge replied, "I just did." Then she turned to me, "You are the sole legal guardian." For the first time since giving birth, I felt safe. After the hearing outside the courthouse, my husband chased me to the parking lot. His mother didn't follow. She was too busy screaming at her lawyer. He caught up to me and grabbed my arm, not rough, but desperate. "Wait, please. Can we talk? I made a mistake." I stopped, mostly because the stroller couldn't go down the curb fast. He looked at the baby, voice breaking. "I miss him. I miss you. I didn't think she'd go that far." I stared at him. This man, spineless, compliant, easily manipulated, was someone I used to trust. Someone I used to imagine growing old with. Now he felt like a stranger. I said quietly, "You didn't just choose her, you abandoned us." He shook his head. "No, I didn't abandon." I cut him off. "You had chances, so many, and every time you stayed silent." He swallowed hard. "I'll go to therapy, I'll set boundaries, I'll fix everything, just don't shut me out." That would have meant something months ago. But now I had evidence, clarity, and a baby who deserved better than chaos. The final line, I didn't scream, I didn't break down, I didn't make threats. I just said the truth. If you want to be in his life, you prove it. Not with promises, with actions. His eyes filled, really filled for the first time. "Can I see him?" I looked at my lawyer, she nodded, so I let him. He leaned down, touched the baby's tiny hand, and whispered, "I'm sorry, buddy." The baby slept, peaceful, unaffected. Safe, after a minute I gently steered the stroller away. Before getting into the car, I said, "This is your last chance, don't make me fight you too." His lips parted, but I didn't wait for an answer. I closed the car door, buckled the baby in, and drove away. Not just from the courthouse, from the version of my life where I tolerated being dismissed and controlled. Because now I wasn't scared. Now I was a mother who knew her strength. And I would never go be. For the first few weeks after the court hearing, there was silence. No calls, no messages, no sudden knocks at the door, just quiet, the kind that lets you finally breathe. I focused on my baby, on feeding schedules, midnight rocking, tiny socks, and soft lullabies hummed in the dark. Life slowed into rhythm. And then, one afternoon, early February, cold air biting through my coat, there was a knock. Not frantic, not angry, just steady. When I opened the door, my husband stood there holding a small grocery bag and a folded blanket. His voice was soft. I didn't want to come empty-handed. Inside the bag were diapers, wipes, and a jar of baby lotion, the same brand we'd picked out together before everything fell apart. Something inside me tightened, not with love, but with memory. He cleared his throat. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. My boundaries were new, fragile, but necessary. So I stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind me. "The baby's asleep." He nodded, accepting that answer like a consequence. The effort begins over the next month. He showed up, not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. He never demanded access. He never yelled. He never brought his mother. Instead, he asked, "Do you need help with groceries? Can I drive you to the pediatric appointment? Would it help if I handled errands?" Slowly, cautiously, I allowed small windows of involvement. Supervised, controlled, respectful. At the pediatric appointment, the nurse noticed. "Most dads don't show up for these," she said. He didn't look proud, he looked ashamed. "Yeah," he murmured. "I should have been here sooner." That was the moment I realized he wasn't just trying to get his family back. He was trying to fix himself. But progress is rarely linear. And when the past comes back, it doesn't knock gently. The test spring came early that year. Warm air, blooming trees, the baby learning to smile. I remember one afternoon in April, sitting on the balcony with my son sleeping against my chest when I saw her. The Mistress, walking along the sidewalk toward our building. Her walk was confident, too confident, like she still believed she had power here. She spotted me and smirked. Then, without permission, she called up, "He still talks to me, you know?" The words were sharp, aimed carefully. I didn't respond. She lifted her chin. "You may have won the court case, but you didn't win him." Before I could reply, the main entrance door opened. My husband stepped outside carrying trash bags. The moment he saw her, his whole body stiffened. She smiled, sweet as poison. "Hey baby, long time no." He didn't let her finish. His voice cut through the air, firm and steady in a way I had never heard from him before. "Stop. Do not speak to me." She blinked, confused, shaken. "What?" He walked toward her, not close, not intimate, but final. "We're done, for good. I'm getting therapy, I'm rebuilding my life. And you were the biggest mistake I ever made." Her face twisted. "You think she'll take you back after everything?" He didn't look at me when he answered. He looked at the ground like he was speaking to his own shame. "I don't expect forgiveness. I'm just trying to be better than the man who hurt her." The Mistress scoffed, turned sharply, and walked away. Not gracefully. Not confidently, just defeated. And as she disappeared down the street, I felt something I didn't expect, relief. Not because I wanted him back, but because finally someone put her in her place besides me. The hope and the fall. For a moment, just a moment, it seemed like we were finding balance. Co-parenting, boundaries, respect. He went to therapy weekly. He apologized without prompting. He spoke up when his mother tried to slip through loopholes. But sometimes, change isn't about effort. It's about endurance, and he wasn't strong enough to hold the line forever. The breaking point: 6 months after the court ruling, we had established a routine. Every Sunday, he came over for 2 hours to spend time with the baby. Supervised. Calm, predictable, but one Sunday he didn't arrive alone. His mother walked in behind him before I could stop the door. She didn't speak, not right away. She just looked around my home like she was assessing property she believed she still owned. My husband's voice was tense. "Mom, please wait in the car." She ignored him. "Enough, I've been patient. I am done being treated like a criminal." I picked up my son instinctively, her eyes locked on him, hungry, possessive. "Give him to me." My husband stood between us immediately. "No." That word came fast, instinctive, but too late. She stepped closer. "You're letting her destroy our family." My voice was quiet but steady. "You did that yourself." She turned on me. "You think you've won." The court only delayed the inevitable. I nodded toward the door. "Leave." She didn't. Instead, she pointed to her son. "Tell her I'm staying." My husband didn't look at her. He looked at me, exhausted, lost, torn between loyalty and morality. And then, in the worst possible moment, he folded, just slightly, just long enough. He muttered, "Maybe we can all talk." I closed my eyes. A deep sadness settled in my chest. Not anger, not betrayal, just clarity. I realized then he wanted peace more than he wanted accountability. And a man like that will always be dangerous, because he will always choose comfort over courage. I opened my eyes. "Visit S over, please leave." He tried to protest. But when he saw the cold finality in my expression, he nodded. He lifted his mother's purse from the floor, placed a firm hand on her shoulder, and guided her out the door. She resisted. She cursed. She threatened lawsuits, but he kept walking. That was his last visit. He never tried again. And quietly I let him go, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because I finally understood you can forgive a person, you can appreciate their effort, you can acknowledge their growth, and still know they do not belong in your life. The weeks after that final visit were strangely peaceful. No phone calls, no messages, no unexpected appearances. Just stillness, the kind that comes after a storm finally spends itself. My lawyer handled the last of the court paperwork. The apartment building was officially mine, fully uncontested. The tenants slowly returned to normal living after that chaotic chapter. And as spring turned into summer, I found myself living quietly, almost content. Some wounds don't heal loudly, they simply stop aching. The public shift people talk. They always do. Word of what happened, the affair, the lawsuit, the eviction, the confrontation spread through our community in the way gossip always does. Slowly at first, then fiercely, then permanently. Some people avoided eye contact with me, unsure whether I was fragile or fierce, but many more, women especially, approached me with a softened gaze. "I heard what you went through. You didn't deserve that. You were stronger than I could have been. Good for you." Some people never leave. It wasn't pity. It was recognition, shared womanhood, survival language. Meanwhile, the mistress, Emily, began to experience her own shift in public perception. At first, she walked around with the same superiority and entitlement she always carried. She believed she was untouchable. She believed she had won something, ownership of a man, but affairs aren't trophies. Affairs are shadows, and shadows disappear in daylight. People whispered when she entered stores. Employers stopped calling. Her friends, the ones who indulged in drama, slowly evaporated when consequences became real. She learned something painfully universal. People will cheer chaos, but they rarely stay for accountability. The unexpected email one morning, while feeding my son mashed banana and oats, my phone buzzed, an email notification. The sender's name made my stomach clench, Emily. For a moment, my hand hovered not out of fear but caution. Then I opened it. It wasn't long, not emotional. Not even apologetic in the way most apologies are. It read, "I'm being evicted from my new place. I can't find work. I know you won't, but if there's any chance you could help me legally or financially, please respond. I shouldn't have come between you and your husband. I thought I was winning something. Now I understand I was. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need help. Emily." I read it twice, not because it hurt, but because it felt strange to see her without teeth, without venom. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I made myself tea, rocked my son, and let the world slow down again. Later that evening, I opened my laptop and typed, "Emily, I don't hate you, but helping you now would not heal me. It would reopen wounds I worked hard to close. Your circumstances are consequences, not punishment. I hope you learn and build something honest going forward. That is the only grace I can offer." I hit send. And just like that, the last thread between us snapped. But she wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, she appeared again, not through email, not through gossip, but in the most dramatic way possible. She showed up at the apartment building, my building, the building she once lived in as if she owned it. It was late evening. I had just put my son down to sleep when one of the tenants called me. "She's outside, crying, screaming your name." I went downstairs only after making sure the baby monitor was on. When I reached the entrance, I saw her pacing, hair unkempt, mascara streaked, shoes in her hand like she'd run barefoot. The moment she spotted me, she rushed forward. "Please, just listen, please." I held up my hand, not angrily, firmly. She stopped, breathing hard, eyes wild. "I have nothing," she said, voice breaking. "Nobody will rent to me. Everyone knows. I can't even get a job at a grocery store." I sighed quietly. "Emily, what do you want from me?" She swallowed. "A chance. Anything. I'll sign something. I'll stay quiet. Just let me rent a room, even a basement storage space, please." Her desperation was palpable and heartbreaking in its own way. But empathy is not the same as responsibility, and pity is not the same as wisdom. I shook my head gently. "You can't live here, not because I'm angry, but because this is where your damage happened. Staying here would keep you stuck in the same story." Her face crumpled. "I don't know how to start over." My voice softened. "The same way I did." She blinked at me, almost childlike. "How?" I took a slow breath. "One honest step at a time, with no shortcuts, no manipulation, no stolen things or stolen love." She covered her face and sobbed, not performative this time, not dramatic, just human. I didn't touch her, I didn't comfort her, but I didn't turn away either. After a few minutes, she pulled herself together. She whispered, "Thank you for not hating me." I nodded once. "I don't hate you. I just don't owe you anything." And without another word, she walked away. Not defiant, not angry, just finally willing to face herself. What came after from that night on, she disappeared from my world. No more emails, no more visits, no more rumors. Some people heal loudly, some heal privately. She chose disappearance, and maybe that was her version of growth. As for my husband, word spread that he moved to another state. He took a small apartment, continued therapy, and took a stable but modest job. He sent birthday gifts and cards every holiday, not to impress, not to return, just to show responsibility. I accepted them on behalf of our son, nothing more. Healing doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it begins quietly on ordinary days, in small, gentle moments you don't even notice until later. For me, it began with laughter. Real laughter. It happened one afternoon when my son was learning to walk. He took 3 wobbly steps toward me, then collapsed onto his diapered bottom with the most dramatic expression, wide-eyed, offended, confused, before bursting into a giggle. And I laughed too, a full, unrestrained laugh that shook something loose inside me. Later that night, after I put him to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The apartment was dim and still. And I realized, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole, not perfect, not healed completely, but whole enough to stand on solid emotional ground. Rediscovering myself, motherhood can make you forget your name, your identity, your hobbies, your preferences. And betrayal, well, betrayal can make you forget your worth. So I began reclaiming small parts of myself. I enrolled in a weekend pottery class. I went on morning walks with headphones and music I used to love. I started journaling, not about pain, but about possibility. I bought flowers every Sunday just because they made the room feel softer. The apartment building began thriving, too. With Emily gone and the chaos behind us, the tenants grew into a small community. People greeted each other on the stairs. Someone placed potted plants near the entrance. Children played in the courtyard during warm evenings. It no longer felt like a place touched by scandal, it felt lived in. Safe. Mine. The unexpected meeting about a year after everything had happened, I was in the lobby repairing a loose mail slot when someone walked in behind me. A familiar voice said, "That looks like stubborn hardware. Want help?" I turned, and there he stood, not my husband, but someone I recognized. His name was Elias, a tenant who had moved in around the time of my legal battle. Soft-spoken. Kind. A man who always held the door open and always carried reusable grocery bags. I smiled. "I've been wrestling with this thing for 10 minutes, be my guest." He examined the screw, then pulled a small multi-tool from his pocket. "Engineering degree," he said with a shy grin. "I can't solve emotional things, but I'm pretty good with objects." I laughed softly. For the next few months, our interactions stayed casual, friendly, but cautious. Coffee shared in the lobby. Short conversations by the mailboxes. Smiles exchanged in passing. Nothing more, not yet, but there was something peaceful about him. No tension, no guessing, no wrong-footed remarks that left me unsettled. He was steady. The first step forward one late summer evening, we found ourselves sitting outside on the building steps while my son played with sidewalk chalk nearby. Fireflies blinked in the grass. Warm crickets hummed in the distance. Elias glanced at my boy, now almost 2, happy and carefree. "He looks a lot like you," he said gently. I nodded. "He has his father's eyes," I replied. "But the rest, I think that's me." Then there was a pause, not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. "You've been through a lot," he said, not a question, not pity, just acknowledgement. "Yes," I said quietly, "but I'm not stuck there anymore." We sat in companionable silence. Then he asked softly, "Would you ever consider dinner, just as 2 adults, no expectations?" My breath caught not in fear but in surprise. It had been so long since someone treated me gently, with patience, with respect. I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. Instead, I looked at him and said the truest thing I could. I'm not sure if I'm ready, but I'm open. And that's new. He nodded and didn't push further. That was when I knew he was different. Slow, intentional love we didn't rush. There were no sweeping declarations or whirlwind connections. Just small moments of mutual respect, dinner once a month, then twice. Then weekends at the park with my son. Then shared meals at home where laughter felt easy, not forced. He never tried to replace my past. He never tiptoed around it either. Once, after my son was asleep, I told him everything, the affair, the building, the pregnancy, the court case, the confrontation. He listened. Every word. When I finished, my hands were trembling, a ghost of old fear. He reached across the table, resting his hand near mine but not touching until I moved first. When I did, he squeezed gently and said, "You deserved better. I'm glad you survived it." Not poor you. Not wow drama. Just acknowledgement and dignity. A new kind of ending the following spring, my life felt settled in a way I hadn't known before. The building was thriving. My son was healthy and growing. And we, Elias and I, were slowly building something real. One afternoon, while walking through the park, sunlight filtering through tall blooming trees, he stopped and turned toward me. His tone was soft, steady, the same steadiness that had guided everything between us. "I don't need an answer today," he said, "but when you're ready, I want to build a life with you. A safe one, a patient one." There were no butterflies, no dizzying rush. Instead, warmth. Like a sunrise spreading slowly across still water. I didn't promise him anything that day. But I held his hand, and that was enough. The final lesson healing didn't make me forget what happened. It helped me understand it. My husband's betrayal wasn't proof that I wasn't enough. It was evidence that he wasn't ready to love with maturity. The mistress wasn't proof that I lacked value. She was a mirror of someone running from her own emptiness. And losing them didn't break my life, it cleared space for something real to grow. Now when I see my reflection, I don't see a woman abandoned. I see a woman who walked through fire and didn't lose herself in the flames. A woman who chose dignity over revenge, growth over bitterness, peace over chaos. And as I tuck my son into bed each night, I whisper the truth I fought hard to learn. You are worth loyalty. You are worth love. And so am I, baby. If you're still here after all that, let Auntie Me speak plain. Some of y'all heard this story and thought, that could never be me. But somebody listening right now is sitting in a bathroom, staring at a pregnancy test, wondering if the man she loves will ever grow into the man she needs. Somebody else is lying beside a partner who sleeps peacefully while she cries silently into her pillow because she knows, deep in her bones, that his loyalty doesn't match her love. And somebody is hearing this and realizing, she's not heartbroken, she's finally free. See, love is not supposed to feel like begging. It's not supposed to feel like fighting for the bare minimum, and it sure isn't supposed to feel like competing with someone who should have never been in the picture in the first place. A man who truly loves you will protect your heart, not gamble with it. He will guard your peace, not become the reason you lose it. But don't miss this part, sugar. Healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. Healing means acknowledging it and choosing yourself anyway. Because one day you wake up not angry, not bitter, but done. Done explaining, done tolerating, done shrinking yourself to fit someone else's comfort. And when you reach that moment, baby, you don't chase, you don't argue, you don't audition for a role you already deserve. You simply walk away and watch everything you lost try to follow you. So tell me, did this story make you think about your own boundaries, your relationship standards, something you've accepted that you know deep down ain't love? If this story touched you, helped you, or reminded you what you're worth, drop a comment. I choose myself. Not tomorrow, not after another apology, not after one more chance. Today, because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And baby, you deserve a life that feels like peace, not proof. Nothing less. Sometimes choice isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about finally choosing your own peace.